And we are live. Merry Christmas, everyone. Hope everyone's doing all right. Welcome to Bigfoot Odyssey. This is a special live Christmas event. I have no idea what's going to happen here, but I've showed up, so that's all that matters to me. I'm Carrie. With me, as always, she produces, co-hosts. She does all the work here. Miss Daniela Aiello. How are you, dear?
I'm good. I just showed up too to see what happened.
Yeah, and all this just happened to get done. Yep. After the second time I've taken our names out of the title. You always put our names in the title, let people know who we are. So you too.
I've put our names in.
Yeah, you put mine and your name in the title.
Yeah.
I always take it out after you do
Oh
that.
dear, I never know. You should have told me. It's like only 200 shows later.
People don't know who we are. We're talking about our guest, the amazing, incomparable Brent Thomas from the Paranormal Portal. Of course, it's not the Paranormal Portal on YouTube. It's just Paranormal Portal. And if you're not subscribed over there, there's something wrong with you. So don't have anything wrong with you and go subscribe right now.
Yeah, it's easy to correct that kind of malady. You just go over there and hit the subscribe and you're good.
Right.
Thanks for having me on, guys. I'm really honored to be here.
It's good to have you, man. For sure. What's on the program, Daniela? Anything in particular? Q&A? You're muted, by the way. I know. I was trying. I saw you say I know.
Yeah, I know, because I was trying to do something without the volume coming over. Okay. I thought Brent was going to share a personal story.
I do have a personal story, and I did pull up some fitting ghost stories, holiday Christmas ghost stories, and I thought they were kind of fun. Some are really, really good. Well, hopefully they're all really good, but especially my own that I want to share before we're done. The thing is that a lot of people believe that the veil is between this world and the next world is thinnest at around October 31st or Halloween or Samhain or whatever you want to call it. But there's other traditions that state that it is thin then, but it continues to get thinner until Christmas. And that's when it apparently starts to thicken up again, heading into the new year. And I found that pretty interesting, but it does kind of lend to reason when you hear, some of the strange stories and experiences people have around the holidays, and that it's probably a good time for it to be thin just so people can get together. I don't know. I think that's interesting.
That is interesting. I don't know how anybody would know that, but there are sensitives and people that can pick up on specific things, and they can actually speak to people that have passed on. At least I believe these people are doing something to a degree with. I believe our consciousness lives on. I'm even not opposed to reincarnation. There's just too many stories about it. So, you kind of fit all these things into a Christian belief, but I do it somehow.
It becomes an amalgam of many, and I think we all do that too, because it's like we all have some form of religion, or most people do, and then you have cultural beliefs, and then you have regional beliefs, and and it just kind of thickens into these amalgams of observation, I guess. But it's kind of neat. One of the weird things, just on a side note, that I've always been fascinated by, and it kind of lends to this as an explanation, because I think that it's very possible in the paranormal that the experiencers in many cases could be creating the phenomena. And we often hear that in terms of like poltergeist hauntings, that those are generally experienced by pubescent or prepubescent girls, but it's something to do with that the changes, and it's rare, but they're
menopause.
Menopause probably too. But coming into the puberty as well, and it's believed by many parapsychologists that they create the experience. But what I find fascinating is that there are regionally specific phenomena that people seem to experience. Like in Japan, I don't know if many of you out there have seen The Ring, but the Samara character, that the woman in some kind of night clothes with the hair over the face, and in, like, I think it's Thailand, they have this small apparition of a young girl in a red dress, and that's supposed to be a portent of doom, and how people experience them, in their regional specific places. And I don't believe that it's the phenomena that is regional. I think it's maybe perhaps being projected somewhat by the people. You know what I mean?
Mm.
I don't know. I think
Yeah.
it seems to be a strong possibility, because I don't know, whether time and space really matters in the, in the sense of the spiritual realm, but there does seem to be things that occur in different spaces, in different places. And so I find that pretty intriguing. But I pulled up a bunch of stories that I thought would be kind of fun to go over tonight, because I think in my case, my story, it has to do with family, and how I believe a family member came through to let me know they're still around. And we'll get into that in a little bit. But at any time I can pull up these stories and start reading them.
Yeah. Cool.
All right. You want me to start?
Yes.
All right.
Begin.
I didn't want to take the driver's seat completely.
It's your show.
It's my show. All right.
Roll with it.
Welcome to the Paranormal Portal. I'll take it from here. The first one comes out of Oregon, and it was looks like it's pretty new. It's from 2019. It says, years ago at Christmas time, I got a big tin full of popcorn from my mom. The last Christmas we had together, the metal tin was almost a foot tall with an angel on it. After eating all the popcorn, I filled it up with old pictures that I had laying around. These were all kinds of photos of cousins, camping trips, and more. Months will go by, and I'll open the tin for a certain picture that I know is in there. I love my pictures and spend hours going through them. I plan to put them all in an album one day, and once in a while I'll open it and notice it's only half full. Later on, there would be only 2 or 3 pictures at the bottom of the tin. I didn't know what to think about it or understand why this would occur. And that's the part that's confusing. But I don't know if they ever revisit that, but I'll continue reading. It said there was another Christmas coming, and I pulled out the old popcorn tin that I had filled with pictures my mom gave me before she had passed away. I started to at last put them in picture albums, and I pretty much knew what was in there now. It wasn't as packed, so full of photos, but I put them aside for later. I was up watching TV late one night, and my mind drifted away to all the holidays gone by. And I thought of all my family and friends that I love that are on the other side now. Looking at my old pictures brought back memories, and I missed them all so much. I told them all hello and Merry Christmas, and then I drifted off to sleep. The day before Christmas, when I opened the popcorn tin to get a special picture out, right on top were pictures of all the very people that I had said hello and Merry Christmas to. There were even a few extra of my brother who had passed away that I don't remember having at all. Our family had very few pictures of my brother, and there he was in a picture with his favorite dog. I was happy and totally baffled. I was just so surprised at the order these certain pictures of family and friends were in, and they were all in order as I was remembering them a few nights before, and I sat there in silence, looking at their pictures, when suddenly I realized they were all saying hello and Merry Christmas to me too, from the other side. That's
wow.
Kind of bizarre. I don't know where the tin full of pictures and how it was kind of empty and full sometimes. I don't know where that plays into the story, but I just thought it was kind of neat. And I think that in terms of spiritual messages, I think that can be a way that we receive those kind of things is through something as simple as, the order pictures are in, that may be how it's possible these loved one of ours come through and try to communicate with us, There
could be so many signs that you don't see as well.
Right. Yeah.
That's the thing, isn't it? Unless it's something obvious.
Hey,
Right.
I talked to my mother on the phone in a dream 2 weeks after she died. I'd never had a dream like that. It was I don't remember exactly what we talked about, but it was a very lucid dream. It was like, this is real type of dream. And so I kind of tend to think that it was her. There had been a lot of people had passed away that year.
Oh.
And she was just, I was in the beginning of a really bad time for the next few years with that. So I don't know if I can't remember exactly what was said, but I remembered so vividly talking to her, like I knew that she was trying to tell me something.
Yeah, and I think those experiences are absolutely valid, and I think that commonly, because most of us aren't extraordinarily psychic, but I think commonly we will probably mostly get our messages through things like dreams because we're kind of beside ourselves. We're kind of in a relaxed state, or there's something about disengaging our normal mind to receiving these things that I think is probably pretty important. And maybe that's what we learn through meditation and through practice and things like that about stilling the mind. But I think when we're in our sleep state, it's probably the easiest for them to come through. But I think they're very incredibly valid.
Yeah, I've had a few dreams where I've had some sort of closure with one thing, and then and then woke up feeling really good about something that I'd felt really bad about for a long time. So, and it was just in a dream. It's so strange, isn't it? How you can do that.
Yeah.
Diane Kennedy says, I believe it, Carrie. I saw my paternal grandfather who died when I was 4 years old in a dream. It was so real, you could reach out and touch him. It is. And you have those dreams every now and then. They say that if a lucid dream is a dream where you actually realize you're dreaming. They say if you can do that and maintain it, you can do anything. You can fly. You can do whatever. So try it out. If you ever find a key, mine used to be tornadoes because I'd never seen a tornado in real life. I've had them come by, seen the destruction from them, but I've never actually seen a tornado. So every time I saw a tornado in my dream, I knew I was dreaming. Cool. But you just can't maintain it. You start to try to fly or whatever, and you wake up. So once you realize you're dreaming, something happens.
Yeah. Actually, that's when my dad, and my story that I'm going to tell later has to do with my father who had passed. But initially, right after he passed, and we knew he was passing, he had a COPD, he had lung issues, and he was fading, and it was tough because this is a very strong, stoic man, and to see him reduced to that was extra hard for him. And I'd gone home to visit as much as I could prior to his passing, but then of course I live out in the north of Idaho, and they're in Minnesota. So then came the day I got the phone call, and at that time it was really kind of tough because at that point the door was closed. It's like, my dad and I we loved each other very much, and there was no question about that. But we also had one of those head button relationships, and there were times when we weren't close as we should have been, and but by the end I think we were okay. But still, there was those things that went unsaid that were really tough because at that point you got to deal with them, you got to eat them. So, but it was I went to sleep one night, and suddenly it was one of those dreams that was so real. It was so beyond anything in real life. Even it was just so vivid. And I was in his living room, and there he was standing. And I was like, "Oh, Dad!" And we embraced, and we were able to share those things. And maybe it's my own psychology working itself out or whatever. But we were able to talk, and I was able to have that moment with him to say the things that I wanted to say and to hear the things that he had to say. And it was so incredibly cathartic and healing, and so incredibly therapeutic. And it made the grieving process so much better. And I really believe it was a real experience.
Yeah. I mean, how else do you explain that away? Just you're the only other even remote explanation would be your own subconscious creating what you needed to get by. But I mean, I think that's just an excuse. It's a cop out.
Yeah.
To deny what we all experience from time to time. There's not a person watching this that can't point back to some lived experience that they've had that's not in keeping with everyday reality.
Mm-hmm.
I think everyone here can.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you. Mike Colantonio, Long Island Bigfoot. Hope you're having a good Christmas there, buddy.
That's really cool. Okay, so I got some more, and this is my show. I'm taking it.
Yeah, bring it.
I'm just kidding. All right, so the next one is it was called Christmas Guest, and this is a story from 2017, coming out of North Carolina. It says the conversation between my dad and I took place in 2000 when I was only 10 years old. I must be honest with you that I can't remember how it was brought up, but we began talking about my dad's uncle with giant ears. And I told him, I know, I met him. And he would give me the weirdest look and argue that I hadn't. I hadn't. Well, I reminisced with him about his father's Christmas parties, and there was this one in particular of when I was 5 years old that I remembered a really old man with the biggest ears you've ever seen that would try to come over and greet me. And he would get real low to my level and he'd put his hand out to try to shake mine. And he was all shaky and I couldn't understand a thing that was coming out of his mouth. I remember being really frightened by him, and my dad did recall me crying a lot that night, needing to be held more than usual. And he said I would run and hide behind everyone's leg, but seemed to be just fine in my great grandmother's arms. And I said, yeah, because I was trying to get away from the big-eared man. But his disbelief was much stronger since the man I had been describing to my dad had died a whole 8 years before I was born. My dad was a skeptic. For the most part, when it comes to ghostly spirits, he swore that I had never seen a picture of him or heard him talk about him, but it would just frustrate me that he or people would just disregard my memory of that night of the shaky, big-eared man that mumbled trying to meet me. But now my dad has already passed this year at age 52, so I can only hope he proves himself wrong and pays me a visit one day. I'm still waiting for that day to happen 10 months later. And this is a story about obviously a kid being able to perceive the spirits. And I thought that was really cool.
Shoot, yeah. It is. Is there something about children before they reach a certain awareness, I guess?
Mm-hmm. There is. There's something. They just seem to be so attuned to that. And I don't know what it is, because I think, well, is it because it could just be a matter of life, right? Like we have so many distractions, so many worries, so many concerns, and so many things on our mind constantly that takes us just out of our center. But kids, I think, are just in that place still, you know?
Yeah, and I think that's what it is. I think it is self-awareness. Once you get to that point where you can override your own natural drives, kids,
Mm-hmm.
children usually don't reach that point for quite a few years. And, they're not really self-aware. Everything is what it is. So, nature still actually has an effect, I think, on those kids, so they can perceive things that we can't, for sure.
Yeah, and I think that's true. I'm sorry, Danielle, go ahead.
Oh, just saying, I remember seeing something one night. I was in bed. I must have been 6, maybe 5, 6, 7. And I was facing the wall and something made me turn around or turn my head around. And there was something stood by my bed, which I think was a female. I don't know why, but it was like a glow, a light glow with some kind of form to it, but which I think was female. I felt like a long dress, white or that kind of. It was like a blurry glow, and then when I turned right round to look, it had gone. But I also felt it was saying, "It's okay, don't worry." Like I wasn't worried about it. I knew it wasn't my mum, but it's something that stuck in my head till now. I think if it was a dream, you kind of forget, don't you? Dreams after a while, but this is really, something that really stuck in my head. Like I remember seeing it.
Mm-hmm.
Who knows?
That's really cool. Yeah, I think that's awesome. I think I don't ever recall having experienced that when I was younger, but I've always thought that that's amazing. In fact, in a haunting situation, usually the pets will pick it up first, and then it'll be the kids, and then sometime later down the road, the adults will finally realize something's going on. But yeah, they're real sensitive. They're open to that stuff.
Look at here, Jimbo. I'll tell y'all something about Jimbo. When we have had the same camera that we shot all our documentaries with. It's a Canon XA20. It's a good little camera. It's 1080p. It's a good camera. High megabit rate. You can get a good cinema quality with it. We shot out our first 13 documentaries plus part of the last one with this camera, and we're giving it away. We're going to give it to a Vault of Nightmares, and they're going to be using it from then on. But we're only able to do that because what Jimbo did for Bigfoot Odyssey in 168. got us a brand new Canon XF 400.
Oof.
Jimbo did. So and now here he is throwing $20 up here. Jimbo, we appreciate you. That was this year. So if we're looking back on the year, Jimbo, quite a few people. Brandon Ransom, got to mention him. His wife just recovering from cancer. Good people, you know, just wanting to help out, and we appreciate them very much.
Definitely. We've been very generous.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty amazing. Come on over and subscribe to the Paranormal Portal.
Yeah, I know, right, Jimbo? Didn't mean to call you out like that, bud, but kind of had to.
That's pretty amazing. It's amazing how far, you know, people will go for what they believe in, man. That's really cool. All right. Got another one here. This one is apparently from the UK. So this is for you, Daniela. All right. It's from 2014. It said this incident occurred in 2004, 2 days before Christmas. My daughter, age 12, came to visit and noticed that I still had not delivered my Christmas cards. She was laughing and joking, stating that the neighbors would get me wrong for leaving it so late. And I was saying, oh, only if they catch us delivering them. It was a cold, miserable night, and the melting snow was making conditions very slippery. So we walked slowly and carefully, which gave my daughter the impression that we were sneaking into people's yards, much to her hilarity. At yard number 3, I could see my neighbor through his living room window, sitting in his chair. My daughter was struggling to keep her laugh in as we crept down in his yard. I lifted his letterbox flap without making a sound as my daughter rested her chin on the windowsill, watching in hope that he would discover us. Well, we didn't even turn around to exit the yard, just walked backwards whilst watching intently in case we got discovered. We had completed most of our deliveries when I bumped into a friend, and she asked what we were doing out so late. And she said not to deliver a card to number 3 because JW, was the name was withheld, had died last night. Well, both my daughter and I informed my friend that we had just seen the gentleman in question, so her information was wrong. And to our horror, another neighbor confirmed that the gentleman had indeed died, and this put doubts into what we saw earlier that evening. My daughter was not frightened, but was desperate to return to the gentleman's house for another look. When we got there later that evening, the light was still on in the living room, but the chair and the house were deserted. My daughter and I questioned each other over the night's events, but we both had known the gentleman for many years. We satisfied ourselves that it was him that we had seen.
Wow.
That's kind of creepy, isn't it?
Next time they're just going to buy some stamps.
Yeah, put them in the post. Let that take care of it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty creepy.
I thought so as well.
Thanks for bringing us the creepy for Christmas, Brent. I appreciate you.
What I do. It's what I do, Carrie. Come on.
I know, right? Look, nobody better in my book. You are the man.
Oh, I appreciate that. Yeah, it's at least during the holiday season. So I was very carefully, meticulously getting these from the holiday season. So just to keep the spirit rolling.
Yeah, you know, we got to stay in
the
fairway. Keep it in the fairway.
Scary vibes.
Yeah, absolutely. So, you know, it's Halloween all year round on the portal. So
yeah, it is. Well, I know I promised to sing a song tonight, and I'm telling y'all my sinuses are really bad, but we're gonna do it at the end. I will, since I said I would. Well, we'll do it. We'll do it. That'll be the last thing we do for the show tonight. So, getting prepared.
Rest it up.
Yeah, never claimed to be a singer anyway, but I'll do my best. I understand how it works.
All right, I got another one here, and this one's really, really cool. I really love this story, and again, you know, believe what you will, but this kind of story I've heard many, many times through the years of doing the portal. So, are they all true? I don't know, but these are all represented as true stories. Just so you guys know that when I did get stories for tonight's show, I made sure to pick ones that are supposed to be true. Again, these aren't my stories, so take them as you will. But this one comes from 2016. out of the state of Arkansas. It says, I'm taking a short break from writing about occurrences in my home, and this story took place in my sister's home many years ago. There's a reason I feel the need to write about it now. I received a phone call from my sister last night, and she was returning my calls finally. And I've been trying to get a hold of her all day yesterday. 3 phone calls, 3 text messages, never an answer. My messages were simply, we need to talk. Today's date is April 18th, 2016. Well, it's supposed to be a Christmas story. My apologies. It's still a cool story. Our conversation in part, my sis, hey, are you busy? Me, no, what's up? It's not. It's nice you decided to return my phone calls. And she said, sorry, my brain's been preoccupied. Do you remember that Christmas Eve? Oh, there you go. Redemption.
There's Christmas. It was in there somewhere.
My house, you said that, remember that Christmas Eve, my house almost went up in flames. She said, are you kidding me? Are you freaking kidding me? I've been trying to get a hold of you all day about exactly that. My sister said, well, all I've been able to think about today is that night. You really need to stop playing in my head. And says, but there's so much room in there. Ah, you're so funny. Have you seen him again? No. Have you? No. So the question is like a ritual we play out each time one of us mentions that night. I don't believe either of us expects to see him again. It's just a question that has to be asked. It all began on Christmas Eve, 1989. That morning, my husband and I awoke to a very cold house. Our power was out, and the water pipes were frozen. Winter was hitting hard, harder than I can ever remember before in Arkansas. Temperatures were in the teens or lower. At that time, we had 2 children, a 5-year-old boy and a 6-month-old girl, and we knew we had to get somewhere warm. We lived in the country, so going to a hotel really wasn't an option. Besides, there was a freezing drizzle that had us extremely worried. We thought about going to my parents, who lived about 6 miles from us, but reasoned that they'd probably be without power as well. Our other option was going to be my sister's house, so she also lived about 6 miles from us in the other direction, but we knew her house would be warm because she heated with wood. After deciding on my sister's house, my husband gathered up the Santa gifts while I bundled the kids up, and we loaded the car and we're on our way. Here, I'll tell you a little bit about my sister's house. I was with her the day she found it. The year was 1981. We were driving around trying to find a rental house for her family. We decided to drive down this gravel road neither of us had ever been down since we were kids, and we noticed what looked like a driveway long forgotten. We stopped, got out of the car, and walked as far as we could, peering through the overgrowth of wild ivy and grapevines. We saw it. A magnificent old house just begging to be loved. The yard was littered with different colored rose bushes that hadn't been pruned in years. In the middle of the yard, straight in front of the steps that led onto a huge porch, was an arched trellis with beautiful velvety blood red roses growing across it. We gingerly walked towards the house, knowing full well we were trespassing. However, since neither of us had seen any posted signs, we thought and hoped it would be okay just to take a quick look. It was as if we were meant to look at it, as if it were calling us. The front porch spanned across the width of the house. It had large columns supporting the roof. On either end, there was an old worn porch swing. The house itself had 2 front doors. Looking through the door on the right, we could see 2 large rooms separated by only an arched frame. Each room had its own fireplace. The floors were hardwood that had long ago lost their shine. From the door on the left, we could see what looked like a bedroom, equally large as the other 2 rooms, and with the same hardwood floor. We were like little kids running around the outside of the house trying to peek in windows to see what other surprises we could discover. We could not see a whole lot other than the rooms in front, but my sister was already planning on how she would decorate it. She became obsessed with this house, asking around whom owned it, would they rent it. She planned to live there, and no amount of trying to talk her into looking elsewhere worked. After several days, she found out the owner's name and asked me to go with her to talk to the lady. Well, someone told her it was an old family home, and the whole family had rented it out in the past, and they didn't believe the lady would want to rent it out again due to the last renters not taking care of it. Even though I figured it was against all odds she would be able to rent the place, knowing how folks around here are about their old family homesteads, I went with my sister to talk to the owner. Right off, the lady said she didn't want to rent it. The house had been in her family for over 100 years. She hated to see someone else destroy it. My sister, not one to take no for an answer, kept trying to persuade her. The lady said it needed tons of repair. My sister said she and her husband would do them. The lady reminded her of how grown up the yard was, and my sister told her, don't worry about it. They would take care of it. As a last-ditch effort, the lady replied, it's haunted. Many of my last renters have heard and seen things. My sister smiled at me and replied, awesome. The lady laughed as she agreed to rent the house to my sister. Christmas Eve morning, 1989. We made our way slowly down the long paved road towards my sister's house. By this time, little droplets of water were beginning to freeze on the tree limbs, and I was thinking how glad I was to have some place to take our children so they could stay warm. I didn't worry that we had not been able to call ahead because I knew my sister would welcome us with open arms, and she did. We spent the day baking, getting ready for Santa's visit. The house was filled with laughter and excitement of 4 little kids, punctuated with a giggle from our baby daughter once in a while. All 4 kids were put to bed in the same bedroom. My daughter stayed with the adults in the living room as we watched TV, and the kids had long gone to sleep, and I suddenly heard my son coughing. It was nearing midnight. When I went to check on him, I smelled smoke. Smoke was coming from the closet, which was on the wall where the fireplace in the other room butted up against. I yelled that I thought the house was on fire. While my husband and I got the kids up, my sister and brother-in-law were inspecting the closet where the smoke was coming from. My brother-in-law said he thought the fire was contained in the chimney, but to be on the safe side, we should all get out of the house. We bundled up the kids and took them to one of the cars we had started because it was too cold for little ones to stay outside. Since the house was so isolated, we knew that we were on our own. My brother-in-law and husband ran to get the extension ladder while my sister and I stretched the water hose as far as it could reach towards the house. But the faucet was out in the yard quite away from the house, and unfortunately, we soon discovered the hose was frozen. One of us found a pail while someone removed the hose from the faucet. We were lucky enough that the faucet wasn't frozen. I filled the pail with water, handed it to my sister. She handed it to my husband, who was toward the top of the ladder, and he then handed it off to my brother-in-law, and he poured it down the chimney. In between times of filling the pail, I ran over to the car to make sure the kids were still safe and warm. It was one of those times as I was coming back to refill the pail when I noticed there was someone else besides my brother-in-law on the roof. About the same time, my sister noticed him too, and I asked, "Who's that?" She replied with her own question, "Where did he come from?" Well, I refilled the pail and gave it to my sister. She gave it to my husband and gave it to my brother-in-law, and it was then that we heard the man speak. "Here, let me help," he said, taking the pail from my brother-in-law. He was standing next to the chimney and didn't turn to face us, just sort of reached out for the pail. My brother-in-law handed it to him, and he poured it down the chimney. I refilled the pail several more times, handing it off to the next person. No one spoke, and finally he was sure the fire was out. My brother-in-law broke the silence by simply saying, "It's out." He turned towards where the man had just been standing. At the same time, my sister and I looked in that direction, but he wasn't there. He was gone. He had just vanished. My brother-in-law searched the roof for the man. My husband, sister, and I walked around the house searching for him, and we couldn't find any footprints in the newly fallen sleet. The only footprints on the roof was that of my brother-in-law's. He was wearing jeans, a long-sleeve shirt with a vest over it, and cowboy boots, and he didn't seem to mind the cold as we did. I can't remember ever seeing his face, only his profile. He never looked directly at us. His voice was very flat in tone. There's always been a debate as to what color his hair was. My brother-in-law says it was black. My sister and I say it was dark blonde. My husband never actually saw him because of his position on the ladder, but he says he heard him talking. The one thing we can all agree on is that he was there, and there is no way he jumped from the house and could possibly have walked away. And he couldn't have gone up or down the ladder because my husband was on it the entire time.
I was
Pretty
muted. So do you believe in impressions? Do you think that's a real thing? Because some of these seem like it could be that.
Like a residual thing?
Yes.
Residual haunting?
Someone wakes up every morning at 6 a.m. every morning and just religiously they turn on the water, they go to the bathroom, flush the toilet, go to the window, open it for 20 years. And creates an imprint, so to speak.
Sure.
Do you believe in that? Do you believe that's a thing? This
I do.
seems like some of these things that people just hear people talking or see an apparition, it's not paying them any attention. It's just,
Right.
excuse me, it's just happening.
Yeah, no, I definitely believe in those. I think that there's the difference between a residual and an intelligent haunt is that, like you're saying, if an action was repeated over and over and doesn't seem to be mindful of anyone or anything around, it just does what it does, then it's like a recording, or the residual haunting is just like a recording. But an intelligent haunting, of course, will participate and may direct its activity towards someone, or at least towards people in the house that they're around to see it. So, yeah, I do believe in the imprints, though, and for very much, yeah.
I think electromagnetic energy has a lot to do with a lot of these things. If you were to look at a map of the electromagnetic poles of the Earth, these bands are coming out of the poles and going into different places, and they're always, they're alive, for lack of a better term. So I just wonder if those things get concentrated in a certain place. Do these things get to be more? Does it do something to you, or is it doing something to the environment itself? Is it doing something to you in the aspect that it's changing the way you see things and you're able to pick up these things now? Or are you the same and these external things actually gaining more power, as it were? Big shout out to Niana Deshpande, good friend of mine, writer, lives in India, gave us, we rich.
We are.
899. And I saw that. I think rupees. Is that rupees?
Indian rupees, yeah.
Very
That's
nice.
it's like $15, I think. So
Probably,
thank
yeah.
you, Nianta, for that. Maybe 13. Thank you very much for that.
And Tanya.
Thank you, Tanya. Merry Christmas.
Yeah.
Thank y'all so much. We just get a ton of support. And let me tell you something. We helped this this family for Christmas. I was not expecting, because I'm a contractor at my job, I was not expecting a Christmas bonus this year. We got our checks. Well, we were informed that our checks were going to have a bonus added to it today for the exact amount that we put in for the family.
Wow. That's some serendipity.
I just don't think that's a coincidence. But we're doubling down. That's going to be the beginning of whoever we help next year. And we're going to try to help several. So I think what we're going to do is we'll do it all year long. Anybody does anything like this, $5, $20, whatever, on the super chats, we're going to put it in this little side account for needy families at Christmas.
Yeah.
So, and I'm starting with the bonus that I got today from what we gave. It's exactly the same. Crazy.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's not exactly a round even number either. That's what's weird about it.
Is it funny the way things work like that, though? They just fall perfect.
Yes.
Place. That's just amazing.
And look, someone said, well, y'all just do this for notoriety. And that was actually a comment. And you know what? When you're standing there and you hand someone an answered prayer, pretty much, and you're looking at that person's face, and you can see that now there's a little bit of hope. There's a little bit of something to feel good about because of something that I did. Yeah, I'll take that self-serving all day long. Damn right, it's self-serving. Just to be there to see that. It was just, you can all imagine the feeling. Those of you with an empathetic heart at all can imagine that. So I'll take it. Yeah, I did it for me.
It's really cool when you're in a position like that you can make a difference in somebody's world. I mean, how huge is that? And how amazing is it for the people? I mean, like you say, an answered prayer. How many people pray every day and may or may not get what they think they should get, but in order to be able to hand that to somebody and say, hey, I want to help, I want to make a difference, that what your needs matter. At the end of the day, that's an incredible thing. And people can take a dump on that if they want, but the point is you don't need to do that. You choose to do that. And that's the beauty.
I was talking to Brad about this earlier. You're talking about people taking a dump on things like that. And something interesting came up in the Bigfoot community, especially. Maybe it's the fringe community at all. When you gain a little bit of notoriety, just a little bit of popularity, doesn't have to be a ton. In this subject, he said it was like being prom queen. He said all the ugly girls hate you. Okay. only my guy. So.
Yeah. I'm gonna probably use that now.
You can have it. It's all yours. We get hated on. We do. And I just, I say a lot of dumb stuff up here. I really do. And for some reason, people tend to take it personally, though I'm never really personally attacking anyone. I have a thought and it comes out, and, it's not always the smartest thing in the world. So I end up somehow upsetting people with it. So
I think some people like to be upset for the sake of it as well, don't they? So
sure, yeah. Well, hey,
you can't do right for doing wrong sometimes.
That's what I had to tell old Vault. I said, look, man, the rhino don't sweat the ant. He's got thick skin. You don't worry about it. You're just swatting flies there, cuz. So anyway, everyone has a right to their opinion. Anyone's opinion of me and us is none of our business.
Not unless it pays my bills.
Yeah. Well, unless someone calling you a hoaxer or a liar, when you're defaming, there are laws against defaming someone's character and destroying their brand just for the sake of it. So if it's your opinion, fine. But if you're putting it out there as fact, yeah, that's what the legalese become binding at that point. We've never had to do that, but I wouldn't. If it was to protect the brand, I would do it. But it had to be somebody big enough that came after us.
Yeah.
In order to do it. My voice is just going. I don't know how I'm gonna do this song, but I will do my best. We're getting close to that.
Yeah.
So if you don't mind, in my part of the show, to close with this story, and it was one of those stories that it really still shakes me to the core, but in a really good way. And I mentioned before how my dad had passed. And, of course, having that experience is tough because you're never ready to let go of those you love. But he started, my mom and I became convinced that he started making his presence known around the house, because the situation at home was my mom and dad, they would watch two very different types of programming. My dad was Walker, Texas Ranger, and my mom was like true crime. So needless to say, they had their own TV rooms, but they were always in their own rooms watching TV. But after he passed, suddenly his TV started turning on just on its own. Now it's electronics, and a lot of people can explain that away. Never did it when he was alive, but started doing it when he passed. And so Mom would call me and talk about those things. And I thought that was really neat that maybe he was sticking around, keeping an eye on her and the place, and, still being a part of the family. And I was sitting here in my studio one day, and my phone rang, and it was my mom's number. And it was in the midday. And so I was like, well, what's going on? So I answered the phone and I said, hello. And nobody was there. Hello. Nobody's there. And I'm thinking, uh-oh. But I can hear what sounds like somebody coughing in the background, a male coughing and, coughing and like that, but it's faint. It's in the background. And I thought, oh, Mom must have pocket dialed me, and maybe my brother's over there visiting. So I kept hollering, Mom, but she couldn't hear me. So finally I hung up and decided to call her so that it would ring and she could, know that she had pocket dialed me, but no answer. And so I was like, oh, that's weird. And so about 15 minutes pass and my phone rings, and it's my mom. And she says, well, what did you want? And I was like, no, what did I want? I said, you called me. I said, you must have pocket called me or something just 2 minutes before, but I called you back to let you know. And she goes, no. She said, I haven't had my phone with me. It was up on the dining room table. And I said, well, where were you? And she said, I was down in the shower. And I said, well, is somebody over there? Because I kept hearing someone coughing in like a male voice. She goes, no, the house is locked. I was here by myself. I'm like, wow, that's really bizarre. So that was on a Friday. So the Friday night, I go on my show and start talking about this and sharing the story of how my dad may still be sticking around. And went through my show and got done. And it was Saturday morning and my phone rings. Now, little background information. My dad was one of the most technically challenged people in the world. He couldn't do anything with his TV without my mom coming and doing it for him. And
Mine too.
so you know what I'm talking about.
Yep.
Oh, so my phone rings and mom says, you're never going to guess what happened. I said, what happened? She goes, well, your dad's television came on by itself. She said, I was here with your older brother and he was sitting here and we watched it come on. And she said, not only did it come on, but it came on. This TV had never been connected. It's a smart TV, but it had never been connected to the internet. It not only turned on, but it turned on to the internet. Not only was it turned on to the internet, but it was turned on to the internet on YouTube. Not only was it turned on YouTube, but it's playing your episode from last night of you talking about the phone call. And I was like, you've got to be kidding me. So there's so many layers of things that would have had to happen in absolute concert for that to take place. That wasn't just random. It was very specific. And I just was blown away. I was like, he was showing that he was there because he turned on his TV. It was connected to the internet. It had never been connected to the internet before, but there was Wi-Fi in the house. So it was connected to the internet. It was on YouTube. It was playing my episode of me talking about how I got the phone call from my mom. And it was a weird situation. It's just so many layers like that I was just, and still I'm blown away by that.
Yeah, that's very serendipitous, I would say. Irony is very ironic.
Yeah. It's incredible. But, you know, it's just, it's kind of like, it's like the odds of opening up your dryer and all your clothes are perfectly folded. You know, it's somewhere in that ballpark.
Well, you know, there's a line in there. You can draw a line in there and say, well, I'm just kind of making up things that actually kind of go along with it to make myself feel better. But man, when you get to that point, that's just like when I was called and told today about the bonus and exactly how much it was. And I looked at Linda and I said, we just got a Christmas bonus for the exact amount we gave this lady from Bigfoot Odyssey. That goes a little far beyond, you know, especially that quick. You know, you're not just making things connect, in other words, though you can do that. And I think people do sometimes.
Yeah. It's amazing.
Absolutely.
Amazing stuff. I think they're with us, Gary. I think these people that we love, and I think we're being watched over and people are with us.
I think maybe they were for a while. This is kind of what there's a you can go to YouTube and find it. It's called Many Lives, Many Masters. This guy, Brian Weiss, he was a psychologist. And it's about this one particular lady who was a medium. She just didn't know it, but was phobic about everything. And so he puts her in hypnotic regression. And he says, you know, go back to your 5 years old and go back to your 3 years old. And he can't, she's scared of everything, water, fire, going outside, everything. Well, he says, finally, one day under this hypnosis says, go back to your earliest memory. She went back 282 lives.
Oh, geez.
And through this series, this book, and you got to hear him talk about it, it's her going from one life to the next. And every way she died, she drowned. She was afraid of water. She was stabbed, afraid of knives, burned, afraid of fire. So all these, and they eventually worked it out, but it was because she was this medium that she could actually do that. So I kind of hope that's the case, that you get to choose to come back as whoever you want eventually. And all the people that are around you are, like, for her niece in one life was her daughter in another, was her mother in another life, her father in a different life. So it's if nothing else, it's interesting. But when you hear them talk about it and the way they tell it, and some of the clues that are in it, that this lady's not making this stuff up, it's pretty amazing. I kind of hope that's how it is, that we get to choose who we come back as and when we come back, and that we get to live many lives until we learn. The ultimate thing to learn is to love unconditionally. That's hard for anybody in this particular realm of reality to do.
Yeah.
So I'd say, yeah, we're probably all coming back. A couple more times.
Yeah.
But hey, look, we still got about 10 minutes. That was your last story, Brent?
That's what I brought for you.
Okay, well, you did absolutely fantastic. I want to let everybody know that our friends over at Blue Line Bigfoot are premiering their Christmas special right now. We did it at the same time. They didn't know we were going to be doing a live on Thursday, so it happened to be at the same time. So when you finish this, go and check that out. Blue Line Bigfoot Christmas Spectacular. Bigfoot Odyssey has a little bit of part in there. Myself and Linda, we sent a little video. I think that's going to be in it. I haven't seen it, but I'll watch it after this. So you guys be sure and do that. And I'll be singing a song here pretty shortly.
Yeah.
I think.
How's the voice? How's the throat feeling?
It's bad, but I don't care. I'm going to do it. I said I was going to do it so I can clear my throat and get the sinuses out and give it my best shot.
Cool. When are you on next, Brent? Are you on tonight?
Tomorrow night.
Tomorrow night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thinned my schedule down, so we just do live shows now: Wednesday, Friday, Saturday. Those are the YouTube shows.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. It'll be a good time. It's going to be our Christmas extravaganza. It just means it's going to be me and Don. Being me and Don.
Yeah. Are you going to
Don
do it?
is awesome.
Oh, yeah.
He's a good.
Sorry,
he's a
as far as co-hosts go, you couldn't do better, man. Don is badass. I mean, I got Brad and Daniela, but you got Don. I'd trade both of them for Don.
Oh wow!
Thanks.
You know,
I would
I'm
think
kidding. I'm messing with you.
I would take that trade. No, just kidding.
We would have no, yeah. There'd be no
Don knows I'm
Bigfoot
kidding.
without Daniela. There would be none of this.
Yeah.
Y'all would get to see a documentary every couple months. That would be all you get. Outside of that, you would get none of this without Daniela. So, not that this is much of anything, but we do try our best. We're here.
Definitely. So what are you singing again?
A song.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's usually what you do with songs.
Yeah, all right.
Sing them, play them, listen to them. Yeah. Not giving that away just yet. I worked on it all day. Linda said it was good, but she has somewhat of a bias. You know, I tend to, when I come home, I'm Linda's jukebox. So whatever she wants to hear, I have to learn how to play. And I don't read music. So I got to go to YouTube and I got to listen to the song. And I was like, okay, I think I know what key that is. And I got to go through and pick it out. So I'll do it my own way. It's definitely not, even though we probably won't be able to monetize this because I'm singing a song that was written by someone else because it's the same words. And it might be in the same key. I doubt it, but it'll be close. We'll have to share monetization with this.
How did you learn to play piano and not read music? I'm very fascinated.
I just started. I just wanted to learn how to do it so bad. Nobody in my house played, but we had a piano. Look, my mother made me read Chaucer, Faulkner, Virginia Woolf, told you all these things, Hemingway, every famous writer she ever never read. She wanted me to read. I wasn't going to be the next good old country boy brought up in South Mississippi as far as she was concerned. There was plenty of those around. So I felt fortunate that I was kind of cultured by my mother at an early age. And I think the way that I speak now is a direct result of reading all those things. I was reading Canterbury Tales when I was 14 years old. So her doing that for me is kind of what I wouldn't say I was, is how read I am. I think I'm better read than most Southern men because of that, because I read a lot. And playing the piano, we had a piano in the house and I banged around on it and figured out a few things and kind of got a feel for it. So I've been playing since I was 10. I'm 48. So in 38 years, I should be a lot better than I am if I would have ever taken lessons and learned all the tricks, I guess.
I think that's fascinating because I play around with my keyboard as well, but I'm nowhere near a player. I wanted
to do it. It was I wanted to learn how to do it.
That's no small thing. That's really cool.
Just practice though, isn't it?
About 10 years. I'd say by the time I was 18, I was decent. I was playing things, picking things out and playing it, messing around at parties or whatever, showing off. I played it. I never was in a band, but I played in a few piano places. coming up just on request, what people wanted to hear. Just some usually light music as a background. Done that. Yeah, so I just played and just kind of picked it up over the years. So watching other people.
That's impressive.
Yeah, is it?
I think it is.
It's not a talent I was born with. I just worked really hard to try to learn to do it. So I said, well, you're talented. Well, no, I didn't just sit down and do it. It took a long time for me to actually learn how to do it. So I think I should be a lot better than I actually am when I say that. That's going to include the singing part too. So are we about ready to get to that? I think. Daniela, you froze up.
Oh, she did, didn't she?
Yes, with a very sleepy looking face.
Yeah, she's focused. She's concentrating.
Oh, there she came back. We can't hear you.
You're muted.
You're muted.
I say I'm just glad it never totally went off like it normally does.
It was not a bad look for you.
Oh,
you just looked really sleepy, like half-eyed, like you were blinking. Caught you in the middle of a blink.
It's almost 2 a.m.
All right, I'm gonna move a few things. Give me 2 seconds.
All right. So this is exciting.
Yeah, I'm curious what he's going to play. That's cool. I really am fascinated by him learning that by himself, because it's one thing to take lessons and have it structured and pushed to you, but to sort it out for yourself, that's much more impressive to me personally. But
yeah, definitely. I always wanted to play the piano.
Me too. And I still haven't figured it out. So he's way ahead of me.
I wanted to play it as a kid, and then I don't know if I probably told you this. I came home one day and my dad said, "Oh, there's a surprise for you in the hallway." And I went in and there was a guitar. I was like, "No, I want to play the piano." He was like, "No, you are playing this. There's like no room for a piano." I was like, "Okay." And he'd booked these lessons for me and everything, so I had to do it. I had to learn classical guitar.
Sure. Well, it's easier now though to learn piano, I think, because the electric pianos back in the day, everything was acoustic and you needed a lot of room.
Yeah, and also the noise. I mean, you couldn't really do it now with your neighbors. So, I mean, I would think about getting one, electric one, plugging in the headphones, and here we go.
All right, I can kind of hear y'all. Sorry, the dogs were acting up, so I had to do something about that. Okay, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
You can? All right.
Yeah.
Can you hear that?
Yeah.
Well, since Linda and I live in the heart of Dixie, I thought this would be the appropriate Christmas song. So, not making excuses, but I've got bad sinuses right now, so just keep that in mind. Right now in New York City, there's snow on the ground. Out in California, sunshine's falling down. Baby, down in Memphis, Graceland's all in line. In Atlanta, Georgia, there's peace on earth tonight. Christmas in Dixie, it's snowing in the pine. Merry Christmas from Dixie to everyone tonight. It's windy in Chicago, kids are high school. There's magic in Motown, city's on the move. In Jackson, Mississippi, It's a peaceful Christmas time. Christmas in Dixie. There's snowing in the pine. Merry Christmas from Dixie to everyone tonight. And from Bigfoot Odyssey, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. We love y'all.